Testing 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Okay, for everybody that's in the room, it's 6:16. If you'd like to speak tonight, please sign up on the clipboard at the back of the room, and we'll make sure we get to you. 6:16, you got 14 minutes. Okay, everybody, the time is 6:25. If you haven't signed up to speak, you've got 5 more minutes. Okay, 2-minute warning on signing up. If you didn't sign up on your way in, you've got a couple of minutes left to sign up to speak. We'll be kicking off here in about a minute and a half.
They don't want their name on a piece of paper, they just want to talk.
It's the little button on the left. Make sure it's green, otherwise it's muted. Okay, the Apple Watch says it's 6:30, so let's go ahead and kick off. I'm practicing with my gavel. That That means we're starting. I know that because the instructions are engraved on the little thing, thanks to Chad McFarland. Welcome to the Poetry Town Council Town Hall meeting. If you read the listing describing the meeting, you'll know that this is a meeting that's conducted a little bit differently than our regular meetings, which is why our seating is all different. And of course, we're in a borrowed facility here, grateful for that. As the mayor, I have the ability to call roll and establish a quorum, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Of course, I, Mike Jaffe, the mayor, am here. Councilman Kendrick? Here. Councilwoman Hibbs? Here. Councilman Anderson? Here. Councilman Bryan? Here. Councilman Fowler? Here. Okay, quorum established. Please rise and face the flag here on the stage, and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Fowler will lead us in the prayer.
If you bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day, and we thank you for all the many blessings that you give us, Lord. We thank you for this community. We thank you for this the elected officials, and we thank you for the citizens that are here and those that couldn't come that care about this community so much, Lord. We just ask that you bless this meeting that we're about to have, Lord, and we just pray that you give us ears to hear and a heart to receive it, Lord, and we just pray that you just return us all home safely tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Terry. Okay, so as I already said, we've got a little more casual setting here. I gave the secretary the night off because we're burning secretary hours because of our election obligation to keep the office open, and because, again, I can take roll. Seems silly to bring her in for a long time to call one little thing. Let me get my notes here. We're going to remain seated. I mean, if you want to stand up, you're welcome to, but please don't see any disrespect in the fact that we're seated. It's just kind of meant to be. We're all on the same level here. We're just having a conversation tonight. Let me start off by saying, because I'm not sure everybody is aware of this, we, the council, and every governmental entity are obliged to follow what is called the Open Meetings Act. And I'm not sure a lot of citizens understand that, and that sometimes bridles us a little bit in what we can say and conversations we can have and all of that. And basically, the idea of the Open Meetings Act is that we will never conduct any business outside of your ability to watch us, right, from start to finish. And it doesn't matter if it's a workshop, it's a town hall, it's a regular meeting, or it's a special meeting. We are obligated to always be in full view of the public as we deliberate, as we vote, as we do everything else. So tonight's meeting, having said that, is governed by the Open Meetings Act. So we're going to have a lot of conversation, I hope, but just please understand, we cannot tonight during this meeting make like a solid commitment. What we will tell you is that's a great idea. We're going to put it on a future agenda, or we'll consider it for a future agenda, but we can't do anything up here that looks like we're actually conducting business. Workshops are not for conducting business. They're for providing updates on projects, providing updates on other things. In the case of tonight, I felt like it was a good opportunity to introduce myself and the new council to you, and also to maybe relieve some of the tension in the community of people wanting to be heard and having things to say, and hopefully this will give you an opportunity to do that. Moving on from that, as I was thinking about preparing for this meeting, one of the things I thought about was I want to take a couple of minutes and I want to recognize all of the council members and the mayor that came before this council, right? Mayor Tara and Jonathan and Brian and Simeon. And I want to just sort of acknowledge, because I think it's important that we do this, that we are sort of standing on the shoulders of what they, and some of us were there too, built, right? I mean, we have a town and town business and revenue and other things in existence because of the last 4 years of their and our hard work. So I don't want that to go unnoticed, and I want it to be very clear that speaking for myself as the new mayor, I don't want to get historical. I don't want to look back. I want to take where we are right now and move forward, right? Move ahead from there. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but neither do I want to ignore all the hard work. You know, we had differences of leadership style and differences of other things, and certainly we had some pretty animated meetings, but at the end of the day, a lot of stuff was accomplished, and that stuff is important to our town, right? Thankfully, we have money coming in every month. We have some basic ways that we conduct business. We have 2 secretaries, you know, we have a town hall and other things. So anyway, and then also I want to express publicly my appreciation to both former Mayor Tara, former Mayor Sinkovich, and also Josh Sinkovich for their assistance to me over the last 2.5 weeks doing the transformation, or doing the transfer, rather. It's, you know, we've done a lot of things over the last 4 years, but the one thing we didn't spend a lot of time on, and this is not a dig on anybody because I was there too, was sort of documenting a lot of the stuff that we had in place, right? We were just excited to get it up and running, get money flowing, and start working on roads, and we really didn't spend a lot of time on, you know, documenting things and figuring out continuity plans and things that you would have in an ordinary business, and I think even in a governmental entity. So one of the things that I've been doing is taking advantage of that with Tara and Josh's help, because they were kind of running all that stuff single-handedly, is not just transferring it over so that now I and the secretaries have access to bank accounts and to, you know, general ledgers and other things, but also documenting that journey so that I hope to, out of this, produce a lot of material that the next time we change council and mayors, we'll just hand them a little run book and it'll be an easy transfer. Because I can tell you this time it was anything but easy. It was like a relative dying and suddenly you're going through all their stuff and you're like, I have no idea what these things are for. I mean, it's just, anyway. So thank you to Mayor Tara and to Josh Sinkovich for their help. So I talked a little bit about the handover of administrative control, documentation, system of procedures. Let me jump into, and these, each council member will give you their thoughts, but, and these are in no particular order, but some of the priorities that I've already in my mind kind of committed to that I want to work on are public safety, right? We have an obligation to have emergency management plans and relationships and training and other things in the town. So whether it's a tanker truck rolling over on 1565 or a tornado or whatever, you know, we know how we as your governmental leaders are to conduct ourselves and how we're to interact with the agencies that are going to provide us the support, right? Kaufman County, Hunt County, fire departments, et cetera. So that's a big one. Obviously roads. We all drive up and down our roads, and some of us know better than others how interesting they can be. So roads are going to continue to be a priority. Legal compliance, right? As a town, a governmental entity, we have obligations to stay compliant on training, on conduct, on financials, and lots of other things, so that's important. Serving our citizens, right? I think, you know, this is a step in that direction. We want to make sure that our citizens feel heard and our citizens feel served, right? They feel like we truly are trying to serve you. Understanding our limitations, right? We're 6 people that have something other than just council and mayor, but we do take the job seriously, and we also don't have unlimited money. So we need to, and we're going to talk about that over the next 2 years as we come up on things, because if we had unlimited funds, we'd do all kinds of great things. You guys would be just blown away, but we don't. And so we're going to have to figure out what's important and what's not. Next would be protecting our agrarian lifestyle, as well as our independence, right? Those are both personally important to me, and I think they are to at least some of you. I want to be able to continue farming and ranching, and I want to continue to, you know, do the things that are associated with that. And I think it's important, and I think I said this in the campaign, that as new people move out here, they be given early on an understanding. We really should start with the realtors, but I don't know every realtor that comes out here, that, hey, this is like a farming community. You know, I mean, we have cows and chickens and sheep, and we like them, and we want to keep having them. So, you know, whatever we need to do to continue to protect that and publish that. And then the last thing, and again, these aren't in order of importance, is getting control of development in our ETJ, right? So we're gonna talk over the next couple of years, more than a couple of times, I suspect, about how it is that we can better govern activities in our ETJ. Now, don't see that as us coming after you and your ETJ. See that as developers who might be moving into our ETJ and things that we might be able to do to help manage that. And also, where we don't have the ability to stop something, let's at least get some money off of it, right? Let's get some impact fees and other things. If they're going to destroy our roads, building their little cute homes, and we don't have a way to stop them, and I'm not saying that's the case, but hypothetically, the very least we need to do is get money and other things out of them to help us. You know, an example would be 249 in Wildwood, right? We're not getting anything out of that but traffic. So we want to try to change that. So anyway, with that, I guess we'll go left to right. Doug, if you'd, I'm going to hand you the mic here. If you'd introduce yourself and talk a little.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm Doug. I want to thank the community for their support in this past election. I think what you're seeing here tonight and you're going to see for the next 2 years is a lot of experience that we have brought to our community in a lot of ways. As Mike touched on quite a bit of the top to the bottom. But with the experience that we have had for 2 years with Mayor Mike and Councilman Fowler, and then of course the new folks, we've got a lot that we're looking at. There's things, as Mike had said, emergency management. We've already kind of done a few things, meeting with county officials and with open arms on both sides. And with that relationship that we are establishing is the community of Poultry is going to be able to get something out of that with that relationship that we're establishing. Whether it could be in the roads, it could be emergency management, that sort of thing. But we also are looking at the community input. I know y'all keep hearing that over and over again, but that's what we all stood for when we were running for these positions, is to bring back our voice in the community to help us know what direction that we do need to go in. There's a lot of directions that we do have on our plate that we certainly want to do. And one thing I do want to ask, as far as you're seeing the results, it's just some things are a lot bigger, take a little more time, but then we hope that y'all will start seeing a lot of things that just in the meetings themselves, coming to the meetings, hearing how the business is run, because that's what we like to do, is take care of our community. You know, one thing, way back in the day, as I started my fire career as a volunteer. So I definitely know what volunteering means into a community when there's not a lot of the resources. And so open arms as we move forward, and then we have some input from the community and volunteers that can help. I mean, the road crew was made up of volunteers, and we all know that. But things like the road crew and some other events that may come our way, because the volunteers are very important in a community as this. It draws the community. That's another thing that brings the community together. When the volunteers are working on one project, it just seems like it's just such a blessing to have the community and the outpouring of community support as we do. But I want to make sure that everybody gets their time. So again, from me and my wife, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to serve this community. It means a lot, and I'm honored. Thank you.
I'm Tracy Hibbs. You know, my biggest thing about being on council, and the reason that I wanted to be on council, is I want to hear from you. It's not about all of us sitting up here. We are a community, and we all need to work together. You know, we've stated during our campaign that there are people out here that have different abilities than what some of us might have, and we want to utilize those. You know, I would like to see committees formed, like an election committee. We need help. And I think if you are invested in us, in the way we run the government, then we become a better community. You know, we all want to be friends. We all want to see everybody succeed. If you're a farmer, I want to see you succeed. If you're a business owner, I want to see you succeed. One of the things that came to mind and that I listened to right after the election was that we had 10 provisional votes. That doesn't sound like a lot, and one was only counted. What happened to the other 9 people? Why did they feel like they could vote in our town? What was it that gave them that notion? So one of the things that I'm passionate about is getting our maps, our surveys correct, so everybody has the ability to vote in this town. I'm working on some stuff in the background, PIRs, streamlining how we do PIRs is a big thing for me. And there's some other things that I'm currently working on, and as time goes by, you'll probably find out about some of that stuff. But I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you all for your support, and wish us well. Help us. We need help, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say tonight. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Anderson. Been on the council along with Mike and Terry since 2001. I guess my bio is out on the website so y'all can read my background, but basically the reason I ran again was because of the Bishop Field. We were told real clearly by our 2 representatives in Austin, Brent Mooney and Keith Bell, that we're not going to challenge Bishop Field because we don't like it. We have to have technical, legal reasons to challenge, and that's our work, that's our challenge. Well, I have some experience in that because I am a chemical engineer, A&M, I'm a licensed engineer, and I have done litigation work involving things like the tanks that they have at Bishop Field. They're fuel tanks. So one of the things that I was thinking I could maybe continue to help on is this challenging on the technical legal basis for what they're doing at Bishop Field. And that was the main reason I decided to run again. Now, I have to say that that's part of it, but there's other things too. And that's that while a lot of us want to, like Mike, all of us, we want to keep this as a rural community, but there are some realities, some facts that we have to face to keep it that way. And so in my time here, I wanted to point out some things. One is we all know this is a huge economic booming area, this part of the North Texas. For example, over the last 4 years, and this is from the Dallas Business Journal, Kaufman County has grown 27%. It's now 184,000 people. Hunt County is up 19%, which is 119,000 people as of 2024, by the way. And Rockwall County is up 25% between 2000 and 2024, and that's 135,000 people. So we have over 400,000 people that are pretty close to us. Now, one of the things there's several things that are going to change here, and these are facts that we're going to have to deal with. And one is there's a thoroughfare coming in from Kemp, the area of Kemp, that's going to tie into down somewhere around Rockwall, and it's still going back and forth. It's a Kaufman County thoroughfare, and of course, 3 years ago, there was a plan put out, and it was a 3-year plan to be updated in 2025. So their updated plan is coming up for renewal. Part of that thoroughfare goes pretty close to Poetry. If that goes through, that's going to affect us, whether we like it or not. It's going to bring traffic, business, everything else in here. Another one is, and there's meetings going on now, is the Rockwall Outer Loop. It's going to come up around 548. That also is going to affect us and bring in people. You know, people already know we're here. This is a beautiful area, but it's going to bring more people in the same way, and then it's going to create more housing growth. Part of the housing is the things which are we see going in around Bishop Field. Bishop Field they're wanting to put in 2,000 homes and 440 acres roughly. That's a lot of people in this area, and that's one reason that I'm interested in challenging it, doing everything we can on the technical legal basis for trying to slow it down and challenge. Another one is, and when Terrell was doing their annexation, forced annexation, well, they had public meetings. In one of the meetings, I met with the folks from Hunt Oil Company, which owns the Lamar Ranch down on 986. That's about 2,000 acres, open acres. Now, the people were very clear, they're going to develop it. They didn't say when, and of course, being the Hunts, they won't. They're very secretive. I've done work for the Hunts. They don't tell you anything. That when we see bulldozers out there, that's when we know they're developing it. But they said clearly they're going to be developing. Now, that's 2,000 acres. The Hunt family owns 8,000 acres in Kaufman County. So this is, of 2,000, there's another 6,000 out there. Some of it they're already developing, but this 2,000 acres, and I talked to him, goes back to H.L. Hunt. When he made all his money in East Texas, he saw this area was going to boom someday. So he started buying land back in the 30s, 40s, 50s with his oil money. And then he has a division of Hunt Oil, which is a real estate division, and that's what owns and operates and does all this work. And I've met with them down in Dallas. They all operate in trusts, so that you can't see who owns it, because it's a whole series of interlocking trusts, something like what we're finding happening over in Bishop Field, by the way. But those trusts mean that they are going to be coming in. You won't know who's doing the work, but you will know it's part of Hunt Oil, which has a real estate division, and it's part of their division. Hunt Oil's private. It's nothing public. So they don't have to tell you anything about who they are. Those are some of the realities that we've got to be faced with. And then these housing developments, and of course we all know that where we are here in Poetry, we have this 2+ acre minimum, and so there will be people coming in here that want what we want, which is the trees, the solitude, the open land, and there's a certain amount of people that are coming in here. In my mind, our biggest threat is not those folks, it's these developments that can come in. The developments, Bishop Field, the Hunt development down at the Lamar Ranch, and by the way, it's Lamar Ranch named after one of H.L. Hunt's sons, Lamar Hunt, who's the guy that used to own the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe he died a year or two ago. But anyway, that's in the name only. It's all interconnected trusts, and so you don't know who actually owns it. It's owned by the trust. I know this because I did work for one of the trusts selling some property or selling a facility to another trust and how that all works. And they said deliberately try to keep everybody in the dark, and they don't tell you anything. So we won't know when they're starting. It could be in 2 years. It could be longer. But it's going to happen sooner or later, and we have to be prepared for it somehow. There's things that will happen here. Mike mentioned our roads. Everything that's going to happen is going to destroy our roads. You know, and our bridges, when they come in, you can handle a few of the lumber trucks and cement trucks, but if we start getting them in by the hundreds, they are going to destroy our roads and our bridges, because the bridges have stress, will get stress fractures. They can handle 1 or 2 big trucks a day, but when you start getting 100, eventually they'll get stress fractures on the metal, and it's going to cause problems. So we're faced with a lot of problems if all this occurs. While I don't want to see it, I think we have to face the reality. It's probably coming. We just don't know when.
Thanks, Tom.
Dale Bryant. First of all, I want to thank everyone for electing us, and I've been here about 32 years. I think it'll be 33 on July 4th this year, but recently retired, and I'm really, one of the reasons I ran, my wife said, well, you're going to have to retire. And so I did that, so I'm really excited about being able to take my skills and processes and things and helping the town of Poetry, and just kind of playing off of what Tom was talking about, the development pressures that we're seeing. One of the big things that I'm going to work on, in fact, I'm reading a couple now, is, you know, we have zoning, and the zoning kind of tells you what you can do with and without your property. But with all the development pressures, what we need is a development agreement, development standards. So when these developers come in and want to get into some of the land in the ETJ, just like Tom is saying, like the Hunts, well, we need to have the mechanism in place before they get here, just like Bishop Field. We can holler about it. Our problem is we're not ready for it. And so we've got to get these types of things. So that's the big thing that I'm looking at. I'm currently looking at one that is the town of Parker up in Collin County. They have a really good one, and I think we can really pull off of that. And the good news is, all of these towns, they do all of these development agreements. They're not copywritten documents, so we can beg, borrow, and steal the language, and that's a pretty good one. But I think that's one of our biggest things, you know, we're going to have to look at, is it both with the roads. A big thing that I'm looking at too is, and understand, if you look at our normal county road that we have, the town is roughly 286 feet off of your property line, into your property. So look at it this way. The town of Poetry, what we control is the front door, but that's about it. And so one of the concepts we need to be thinking in terms of how can we take advantage of this, how can we put some restrictions on development and cover the cost of our roads and things like that through impact fees. And those are the kind of things that I'm looking at right now. And I'm following some legislation that's currently out there right now that is going to help us with that. One of the other things I'm working on real quick is signs. We have, the mayor and last council ordered a lot of signs for the town of Poetry, street signs, mainly as County Road 2460 or whatever, your road. If you would go down this list, make sure your road is on this list, okay? And so what I'm trying to do now, and you'll see off on to the right of it, it'll tell you how many signs have been ordered for your road. One thing that we don't have is we don't have a good count of stop signs, yield signs, any kind of warning sign. So if you happen to live on a road that doesn't have a stop sign, I live on one, if you don't mind just writing it down on that, and that'll kind of give me a head start on that list of where we need to start looking at for stop signs, because we need to figure out the cost, get a budget. But the good news about the signage, I've talked to Hunt County, there's a Highway Initiative Safety Improvement Program out, and Hunt County, I don't know if you know this, they're managed out of the Paris office, and they have, that district, they have $200,000 in their budget, and they only have one town that they're working with. So I've made those initial contacts with the people at, out of, Paris, and they're going to come in and help us. First of all, I think is they're going to come in and drive around with us, look at our signage, help us. They're going to send us standards. Talking to our Mayor Mike, he says, look, whatever we do, let's do it right. And I agree with him 100%. So what we're doing with that, with their help, is there's some standards, how tall the signs have to be, which side of the road they have to be on, and things like that. And we want to standardize that. How many people have lost packages? These signs are going to help that. Emergency medical, life safety, Doug's our guy there, and with Terry. So we're going to be looking at all those things. So help me out with the sign, and I'll go around and look at them, but we're going to have to put together some budgets and things like that. But that's one of the projects I'm working on. And then the development restrictions. The other thing is if you live in a subdivision that has deed restrictions, okay? What we have right now with our zoning, we have zoning, or we have deed restrictions that run with the land, right? Now we've overlaid a zoning ordinance on top of that. And what's going to eventually happen, there's going to be a conflict. So what we really need to do, and this is, we're not going to change zoning, we're just going to tweak it a little, okay? So what we're going to be trying to do is find out all of those subdivisions where you have deed restrictions, and we're probably going to have to go to some kind of a PD program, and maybe even another, and we don't need to get into it tonight, a certificate of occupancy kind of thing to protect you. Our problem right now, and I see our code enforcement person is shaking her head, but what happens is people, if you live in a subdivision, you could have some problems with that. So we need to we're just going to clean it up and kind of tweak what we already have. Another big thing that I'm looking at is it's called legal non-conforming use. And if you read the zoning ordinance that was passed last year, it's in there. And it kind of goes through and basically what it means. Let's say you have a lot that is 1 acre. Say less than an acre, that'd be a good example. Less than an acre. So you don't meet that minimum lot size of 1 acre for the single family lot. I think that's what it's called. Okay. So what happens is you basically have a legal non-conforming lot. And in theory, if reading in the ordinance, in theory, you can't develop that lot. So what we have got to do to kind of clean that out, we need to be fair to everyone. And so it's both, and the smaller the lot, probably the bigger problem where we have a legal non-conforming use. If you have 10 acres, you probably don't have that issue. So what I'm trying to do right now is trying to get a population of those types of issues, and then we can start looking at ways how we can fix that. Or let's tweak this, and we might knock 50 houses, 50 properties off that list. Okay? So one of the areas that I'm working is 2434. I've driven all of this area here. One of the main reasons I started there, once you get deep into this area here and then over, all the way back into here to the backside of Grande Verde, you have a lot of small properties. And so obviously that's where a lot of our problems are going to be. So we want to take a look at that and develop some guidelines to where we can protect that. In other words, what would happen, let's say you had that less than 1 acre lot. Technically, let's say your house burned down. And what would happen? Illegal non-conformity, you can't rebuild. I'm sorry you lost your house, but you got to get out of poetry. That's basically what it means. And we don't need to be doing that to other citizens. We all walked into this thing, we're all grandfathered in. They need to have that same right where they can rebuild. And most towns already do this, okay? This is nothing new. And so what we want to look at is identify that. So since I'm kind of working this area, if you live in that area and think that you might have a problem maybe with setbacks, lot sizes, things like that, give me a call, email. I'd love to come out and kind of look at your property where we can kind of measure and kind of look at that, okay? That would really, really help because we do need to identify that population. Another thing, with only roughly 286 feet of your property, if you live on a normal county road, is in the city. The rest of it is either in the ETJ or not, or out of the ETJ, correct? So, if your front feet, the front of your property, if you're less than 381 feet in your zone single-family estate, the 2.5 acres, you've got a non-conforming lot in the town. Now, obviously, there are some quick fixes, right? Okay, if you own that you have a non-conforming lot in the city, then we can write an ordinance that says, but if you own the land behind it and you keep it together, we'll no longer look at that as a non-conforming use. But we need to identify that before something happens, okay? So anyway, those are just some of the things I'm working on. If you've got some input, anything that could help me with that. With the signage, if it's your street, give me a call, maybe organize your neighbors. Once we get these standards, we'll have them pretty quick. We would like to kind of put together some teams where we can go out and put these signs up. So if you don't mind organizing your street, your road, to help us with that, put together 3 or 4 people. We'll get out there and we'll get these signs put up. Okay? Thank you.
I'm Terry, for those that I don't know. I'm actually, as a people person, I'm so excited to see all y'all. A lot of y'all I've already knew for a while, but there's been so many relationships that I've got to forge with many of y'all over the last 4 years. So I'm thankful that y'all are here, and like I said before, for those that couldn't be here, we know there's a lot of citizens out there that care. And I'm sitting up here listening to these, and man, y'all did a good job. Y'all elected some very intelligent people with some good ideas, and obviously you hear their heart, they're willing to listen. And that's kind of always been one of my key points. I've never failed to return an email, and sometimes I've had some different opinions on emails going back and forth, but I wish I could sit up here and tell you the psychologist that wrote it, but I recently taught a class at our fire station, and it was about perspective. And I'm going to challenge this council to always look at things from a different perspective, but I also want to challenge the citizens too, because not that we're hiding anything, but we might have some knowledge that you might not know, and give us time to get that to you. But the psychologist that wrote the article was about different perspectives, and I wish I'd have thought about it earlier and I'd print it off. But, you know, in the picture, it asked everybody on this side of the room, what do you see? And basically it was a circle. Everybody could see the circle on the end. And then he asked this side of the room, what do y'all see? They could see a square. Both of them were correct. But truly it was a cylinder if you could see all sides. So everybody's perspective was right on the matter. It was really just seeing the other side, just turning the object that we was looking at. So as council, I'm going to challenge these councilmen not, sometimes people are going to come at you and it's going to be a little unpleasant. Bite your tongue and listen and go back and put some thought into it. And as citizens, I just challenge y'all to be understanding and give us some leeway too, and we'll do our best to listen and come to the best solution that we can. It might not always be right, but we'll try. Doug hit on emergency management, and Mike's always had a platform of relationships, and the emergency manager in Kaufman County, which I've known for 25 years, he was a Dallas fireman. Doug knows him well. He reached out to me immediately. He goes, you know, where are we at? Let's kind of do a reset. Let's reevaluate. And to me, that's promising that we do have other towns and officials that are seeing us as a real deal now. We're not this make-believe, maybe it works, maybe it don't. I think they see us as a real town, and the relationships are being built. So I think Doug's probably going to take the lead working with Steve Huey, and of course I'll fit in where I can, but I think that'll be a great spot for you as a retired chief, so I had 3 notes up here. I want to touch on the emergency management. I'm excited about that. Not that we've done anything wrong. I don't want anybody to misconstrue that, but that's kind of part of my DNA. So that, listening, asking the council to have another perspective when they're listening, and then as far as goals, yeah, I'll echo everything you guys said. Y'all are right on. I'm going to ask the community to continue to define goals for us. One thing that I talked to Mike about a while back, and you being in the IT world, you totally got it. I think we need to start doing some forecasting, some planning, some 1-year plans, some 5-year plans, 10-year plans. And as we all know, those are terrible exercises to go through, but they pay dividends for future. And then it'll kind of guide the future councils, and we'll get the buy-in from the community and kind of have a timeline and expectations. So if you shoot at nothing, you'll hit it. You'll never hit it, but if you aim for it, you'll hit it. The saying, if you shoot for nothing, you'll hit it every time. But we want to actually have goals and push our money where our mouth is. We talked about capital projects and starting to set those small counts up. We don't have a lot of funds right now. That's a way that we can capitalize on some money and start putting it for projects for future. One of those that I initially talked to Councilman Jaffe about, now Mayor Mike, the man in overalls, and I love it, is getting a plan to get an on-the-ground survey for this map. Y'all know how passionate I am that I see future problems that I hope we never face, but they're out there. Zoning applicability. Some of Dale's points about where that line is and what we can enforce, that's going to have to be legally defined. Even our legal counsel, Berman, agrees that we need an on-the-ground survey. The problem with that, and I'm not holding any punches here, is it's expensive. And it's going to cost every one of y'all, just like it's going to cost us in our sales and use tax and any money that we can come in. So I think if we work with legal counsel, work with this council, and see if that's the direction they want to take too, work with our engineers and get a cost estimate, and then let this council decide, is that a 5-year project? Do we need to save money for 5 years? Is that something we can get done in the next 2 years? So that is probably my number one priority, is nailing down this map and making it legally defensible for voting, ordinance applicability, and the cuss word in the room, taxes, when and if they come. So I thank y'all for coming. I think this is a great step, Mike, and I can't wait to hear from y'all tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. And Josh, I don't know if you were there earlier, but I want to one more time publicly thank you for all your help over the last couple of weeks. Patience, it's like, okay, what's the password to that? What's the password to that? What's the password to that? And Josh has just been, again, amazing with his willingness to help out, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you, Josh. Okay, so I'm hearing, and I'm understand what I'm saying. I'm hearing the lawyer in Austin I was talking to earlier about open meetings and town halls like in my head here. And so I want to make a statement at this point before we jump into hearing from you there in the audience. What we tried to express over the last 30 minutes or so is sort of our heart and our passion, the things that we want to work on. And we've already sort of charged one another with things that we're off investigating, researching, and I think you heard about some of that just now. But I want to say one more time, I guarantee you, because I'm not going to prison for this job, we are not making decisions outside of public meetings that you will be welcome to attend, that will be recorded and put on the internet, right? So please don't hear any of the words that have come out of any of our mouths tonight as that's a done deal, because unless we voted on it in a past council, and it's an ordinance or a resolution or a legal document, this is all sort of hypothetical, but it is important, I feel like, that you know the things that we care about and the things that we're excited about and the things that we're going to work on. So, okay, so we're going to go into the citizen part of this. So, again, we obviously didn't do good at 3 minutes up here, so we're not going to torment you too much if you go a little over, but please don't do an all-nighter, because they're turning the air off at 8, okay? So at 8 o'clock, it's going to start warming up, so let's keep it moving. But anyway, and by the way, I introduced at the last meeting my little sand thing, so we'll sort of put this out here, and that'll give, according to my wife, I can't judge time, because I tell her I'm on my way home, and 3 hours later I'm not home. So I've got a sand timer here to keep us honest. We're going to go in the order that you signed up, and again, say what you want to say. If we have some sort of factual feedback or a response, we're not going to deliberate with you, right? We're not going to negotiate and talk about how we're going to implement. We're just going to sort of interact in a somewhat informal way. We do have Laura and daughter over here at the computer, and we're going to do, in my corporate life, we used to call this brainstorming, right? Where everybody threw out ideas. Nobody debated the validity of the idea, right? Because as Terry said, perspective matters, and later we might think, man, that's brilliant, and tonight we might think it's stupid. So we're going to capture everything that's, relatable that you say, and if you don't feel like we got your comment up there, please let us know and we'll retype it. But we're hoping that what we get out of your input is some ideas that we haven't been thinking about, that are things that we want to be working on over the next couple of years. And of course, you'll have other opportunities. You can see us outside of meetings and email us, and we live right here next to you. But tonight is a particularly good opportunity to get started on that journey. So that's kind of how things are going to go. Okay, the first one I have on the sign-up sheet is Candy Fletcher. And I don't even see Candy, so... Okay, I'm going with Candy isn't here. If she walks in, we'll give her a second chance. Chad McFarland. We have our mic coordinator here.
Chad McFarland, 19850 FM 986. I recently filed an open records request with the town for information that was left behind by the prior mayor regarding the grant that was recently applied for. That process was more difficult than it should have been. I discovered that the town's secretaries, they've been grossly misinformed as to their responsibilities and the rights of citizens as it pertains to the Open Records Act. I'd like to thank Mayor Jaffe and Councilwoman Hibbs for their assistance in getting me access to the records that I was requesting. And I'm confident that this process is going to be one of the top priorities, which I've already heard it mentioned. Once I was finally able to examine the records I was seeking, what I discovered was an incoherent and incomplete mess that was riddled with duplicate pages. Now, granted, I'm confident there's more information available on this issue in the online portal, but at the time of my examination, the online access to this system had not been transferred yet. I was able to determine from what paperwork I did have access to that there's a filing deadline on this grant next month that I did inform Mayor Jaffe of. One of my reasons for seeking this information is that I regularly communicate with a number of different City of Terrell staff, and some of them have experience in writing grant proposals. And I want to be informed on this issue so that I can be in the position to ask an intelligent question of people who have more experience in this issue than myself, and probably any one of y'all sitting up there. On a semi-related note, a couple of months ago, I invited then Councilman Jaffe to attend a membership luncheon at the Terrell Chamber of Commerce. And in the food line, I saw the then city manager of Terrell. I went over to him and told him who I had at the table with me. Before that event was over, he made a point of coming over and introducing himself to now Mayor Jaffe. And the one thing that sticks in my mind that he said is that the door of friendship is open. While there's been a personnel change at the city manager position, I can guarantee you that this sentiment is still there. He also attended another lunch not long, or right after the election, before he was actually sworn in. And at that meeting, he managed to get in front of the Kaufman County judge, I'm drawing a blank on his name, and our county commissioner. And I'll just say that the conversation at that impromptu meeting was very positive, and I think we're probably already seeing the results of these positive relationships that Mayor Jaffe's building. Thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to speak without interruption.
Thank you, Chad. Okay, next up, Shelley Smith.
Thank you, sir. Okay, one of the things I would really like to see the council do as first order of business is develop a list of what being a town can and cannot do for us, and be completely honest with the citizens. Like the Hunt County development thing, or the Lamar Hunt thing, we don't have any control over that. There's nothing we can do about it. It's good to know it's coming. And on that note, the idea of a thoroughfare coming in somewhere near us, but obviously not directly in Poetry, might not be a bad idea, because it will channel traffic off of League Line Road and save us from having to repair roads that all of these people are currently driving on. I think also one thing I'd really like to see is that we go back to the way it used to be, where citizens could talk after each agenda item or whatever, put in your input. However, I feel very confident that the way you guys are now, you will listen to us outside of meetings and respond to us, so that we don't have to get up and say things, in such a rapid way. I was really surprised when we came here for a Meet the Candidate night before the election, and one of the candidates mentioned that he could feel the anger in the room. And that really makes me sad, that, that everybody, it had developed to the point where everybody was always mad. And I'm really praying that you guys talk to us. Let us say our piece. And yeah, you're not going to always agree with us, and I don't want you to always agree with us. I want to have an open dialogue, though. And then last but not least, I did notice the other day, and I talked to a couple of y'all, the city limit sign on 3486 is on the northeast side of the road. That's not in the city limits of Poetry. So anyway, need to fix that. All right, I think that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. You know, just as a point of, I don't know, humor, I guess, I was invited to attend a mayor's meeting in Rockwall, organized by one of the judges, and I was sitting amongst, you know, the mayor of Heath and the mayor of this and that. Town's bigger and further along than us, and they were talking about this Rockwall outer loop, and I just kind of smiled inside, and I thought, yeah, it's 249. I mean, that's the outer Rockwall loop, and that's, but anyway, it's a big project, and we're going to get on top of that. But thank you for your comment, Shelley. Okay, Debbie Emmert.
Debbie Emmert, 2432. First of all, I'd just like to thank you guys, and I'm really grateful that y'all are taking the time for the people of Poetry to be heard and hear our thoughts and listen. And I know it's a really hard task getting everybody notified about, like, the meeting even tonight. There's a lot of faces here I don't recognize, so hopefully more people are going to show up. But I know how hard that is to just let people know. So many people do not get on Facebook, and that's pretty much right now, you know, word of mouth or Facebook is our only way to do it. And I was in a community down near New Braunfels not long ago, and they have one of those marquee signs that sits on the ground and you can change the letters. Mm-hmm. If we could put one of those in, maybe at one central point, 1565 and 986, most people drive by there, and we could always have on there meetings coming up, events coming up, we need volunteers, whatever, and that be changed out. My other thought of getting, like, meetings notified, if we even had the yard signs, not a date on it, but meeting this Thursday night, 6:30, PCCS, and put them at each one of the main entrance exits going out of Poetry. That's only 5 or 6 signs, and then have those out, say, a week before the meeting, pick them back up, use them the next time, and maybe more people would get to where they come to the meetings and just would know. Like all the people on the north end, most of them never come down this way. They go in and out the north end of town, and so they're, you know, they just don't know when we're doing this. So if we could maybe do that, it might work. My other thought is maybe 1 or 2 times a year, a mass mailing, sort of a new style kind of letter, just information. We need volunteers, what's going on in the town, when our meetings are, to just try to encourage people to be more involved. Y'all have already mentioned it. I know you guys are working on it. It's been worked on, and it's going to keep on. But just so you know, the people are behind you 100% of just getting this survey done so we know where our boundaries are. I think that's so important. There's several people, not a lot. I know a couple personally that they thought they could vote. They're right here, and then they couldn't, and they have a driveway that comes out in Poetry property, but yet they weren't allowed to vote. So clearing that up for everybody and having a list of who really is in Poetry, explaining to them why they couldn't. Maybe they want to be in Poetry. Maybe we can get that fixed. Maybe we can help them understand. And then just a couple of more fun, lighthearted things. If maybe 1 or 2 times a year to just have a huge community town get together somewhere. And of course, trying to let everybody know about that. Just have a fun time that people get to know each other. And have sources to say, hey, I do this, you do that, and maybe we can just come together and help each other. Maybe even a townwide garage sale. A lot of communities do that, and it brings a lot together. Like the Highway 80 garage sale, we could even maybe have some vendor, we might even breed some proceeds into poetry doing that, and bring community together. And then our traditional poetry Christmas lights, I would love to see that we just keep increasing that each year. And I know these last couple of things, these are committee volunteer things, not you guys up there having to do this. So I would just love to encourage more people to decorate, make it a little bit more fun, just keep adding to it each year. We've done it for several years now, and it's increased each time, and I would like to see keeping that going, so. Thank y'all.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Let me just, as kind of a point of fact, I guess, response to something you said about the meetings. I think I've struggled, and we've struggled over the last 4 years, is how to communicate with citizens. For a while we were mailing things to every house, and we've tried this, and we've tried internet. And I agree, there's no one thing that will guarantee you hit every house. But some of the things that I have in mind that I think will help are, and Terry may have been the one that threw this out a while back, is, let's make Thursdays the day that we meet, right? So that you know it's going to be on a Thursday, and if it's a regular meeting, it's on the third Thursday, right? So you can mark your calendar. I have the secretaries right now populating. I want to have the calendar populated for 1 year out at all times, right? So for the next 12 months, we want to get every meeting that we know we're going to have, and maybe even the beginnings of the agenda, because we have recurring things that happen every month, paying bills, doing this, doing that, and then we'll just fill in the rest. But that way we can all kind of get used to the routine of, oh, it's the third Thursday, I can expect there's going to be a regular council meeting, or we're having a special meeting or a workshop, well, that's going to be on one of the other Thursdays. Now, having said that, I have committed to Terry, because he's probably got one of the more restrictive schedules of anybody up here, because he's a fireman, that I'm going to do my best not to cause him to use up a lot of his vacation time, which he's had to do over the last 4 years, because it takes away from his family, and I don't want to do that. So hopefully we can work the Thursdays out, so the Thursdays he's not at the firehouse, but that would be the only complicating factor.
It was your idea. Talk about the ability to maybe do blast emails for meeting notifications.
Well, yeah, so Terry reminds me, we talked in the past about the idea of, and there are services out there, I mean, this isn't state-of-the-art technology, that would allow citizens to sign up to have text messages sent to their phone when significant things happen, right? Anything from weather alerts to meetings to Christmas decorating, whatever's, and so I think that's one of the things I'd like to look into and see what the cost of that would be, and then let people on a voluntary basis. I mean, I don't know anybody over the age of 3 that doesn't have a cell phone these days, right? And even if it's not a smartphone, it can probably get text messages, right? And so I think something like that might be something that we look at, because that way you would at least, along with all the people offering to buy your land and clear out your student debt, you might get one from the town of Poetry telling us that we're having a meeting. So we'll look into that. Next up is Robin Followell.
So a lot of things that I did want to touch base on, of course, y'all have all touched on it, and some of our citizens are. And like Della did mention earlier, I do have expertise in municipality. I am a zoning inspector for a city. I do have my Code 1 and 2 license. So anything, like if y'all decide to do another part of the volunteer committee that has to do with zoning or signage, I enforce that a lot, but I know how we could use that to our advantage to help protect our little town. I'm all for helping with that. But I think the big thing that I have tried to get council to do in the past that is so important, and I know Dale's going to shake his head at me and agree, is that, so our town technically is in 3 counties. And we do not have a building standard code. Technically, we're supposed to have one by state law. It doesn't have to be the same as every town, but my point is, like, if Kaufman County is on 2018, and you have Hunt on 2012, and you've got Rockwall, which if they're like Mesquite, we're fixing to adopt 24. So if you have all three counties on different standard building codes, then that is not fair to a new person that is coming in and having their house built in Rockwall, opposed to that's on a high standard, over here to a low standard. The quality of the home is not held to the same standards. And I think for anybody that lives in this town, we need to adopt the minimum state code, like I said, if the minimum for the state is 18, which I'm pretty sure that's what we're at, then that's what the town needs to adopt as their building code. That way, anybody in this town, in any three counties, is getting their homes all built to the same standard quality.
I'd like to address that. I think when we talked about that earlier, it was several years ago.
It was my first meeting.
Yeah, it was, but we couldn't spell it. We
I got
weren't
it.
ready for it. But you're exactly right, and I'm with you 100%. We do need to adopt a building code. And the other thing that a lot of people don't realize, that's also a source of income.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't realize, that doesn't mean we have to hire staff to go out and do building inspections. There are companies out there that do that for a fee.
But
Okay?
it holds the developers that's coming, whoever you hire as your builder, or if developers come in, then they have a standard code
Right.
that they have to go by and regulations.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost us anything as a town to adopt the minimum standard state code.
Yeah, and if you've got some information, I mean, I agree with you, and if you've got some research or what code, it's more an issue of which one are we going to adopt.
Well, I think the minimum statewide
Now
at this point is 2018.
18, right.
Because they just adopted 2024.
Right,
So I think the minimum across the board for the state now is 18.
right. And,
And so I'm fixing to be out of town for almost 2.5 weeks, but as soon as I get back, I will check with my building official and get some clarification on what the minimum is and what the few steps are, and I can email that to y'all, so that's something y'all can maybe look into to discuss, and then getting that on the agenda. So the sooner we get it on the agenda is the sooner we can have it enforced for builders or anything like that that may come in, or like Council Inderman said, Hunt, they don't tell us anything. But if we've already got that in play before they start, now we have a standard. So that's a big thing that I want y'all to look into, and I think that makes it fair for everybody in the city or the town, so that we are all getting the same quality homes that are being built going forward. Or just like we remodeled our whole house down to the studs 6 years ago. I mean, then you have a standard on safety and everything else, because that house had been built 23 years ago. I mean, it just helps protect your home, your property, and in the end, it makes your value go up anymore. My other thing was, of course, Shelley already said about us getting to have our 3 minutes after every agenda item. Would love to see that come back. I don't actually see that being a problem. And then the other thing that I was going to touch on, which Chad touched on first, was the Information Act about y'all doing your open records request. That was my other thing for my very first meeting that blew my mind, is that it's 10 days. It doesn't matter how small or how big your town is. You got 10 days. I used to do open records for my same city I'm at now. It's 10 days, period. Doesn't matter unless it is some crazy, huge project, and it has to be an exceptional extension, and they actually have to send something to the state stating why they're having to have more time than their 10 days. So I think
outside of the realm of the operation. if it's outside the realm of the operation of the town within 10 days, but you have to give notice to the recipient that we're going to send it to the Attorney General, and he makes his opinion.
Yeah,
Yes, it's a process.
it's a process.
For sure.
So,
And then, real quick, international building codes is what you're referencing.
Yep.
For everybody in the room too, every contractor that's a licensed contractor, from electricians, plumbers, air conditioner people, they operate on the existing building code that the state has adopted as well. So if you've got a legitimate contractor, he is to operate by the state's codes, but I agree with you, and we have discussed that, of already establishing our own building codes with some other things to bring it back to poetry so we can have our own place in construction and whatnot. I appreciate it, Rob.
yeah. I think other than that, I really don't have anything else, except I just want to say congratulations to all of y'all. I'm so happy for the outcome. I think the town is really going to thrive now that we have new council, we're being heard, y'all have great plans. We got to know like what your plans are, what your ideas are for us going forward. And so I'm really excited to make time so I can be here again and volunteer for other committees. And other than that, just thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Robin. Test. Well, hold your thought, Larry. I want to let the people that signed up go, and at the end, we'll squeeze you in. So just kind of write down your note on your hand there if you're an engineer. You know, I have thoughts, and I'm sure all of us up here do, about everything that's being said, but we don't want to be here all night. But I do want to react to one thing you said, Robin, because we've had the conversation before, and some of you have been involved in it, of it's not the citizens of Poetry's fault that we landed in 3 different counties, okay? And so I feel like it's our responsibility, and I know we tried in the past, but as someone pointed out, we're further down the road, people know we're real now, so maybe we can go back after it and get a different result. But I do think, and it's a goal of mine, that, and it may require we take back responsibility for some of these things, right, rather than relinquishing them to the counties, so that it doesn't matter what part of Poetry you live in, you're going to be held to the same standard, right? And so will the developers, and so will everybody else. Now, don't hear that as you're going to have to remodel your home. I mean, everything, you have grandfather clauses and things like that that come into play for existing, but as the point was made, for new stuff, it should be very clear, and there should be no incentive, for example, to do your development in Kaufman versus Hunt, or buy your house at one end of the neighborhood or another because, well, over there you can just do your own wiring, and over here you got to meet code. No, we need something that, you know, level sets it throughout the town. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so next up is Catherine Hardwick.
Well, I'm going to start with, thank God. I have hope again.
Well, good.
It's so rare when I vote in an election and everybody I vote for gets elected. Maybe something good's coming here. I like it a lot. I just want to second everything that everyone's talked about. Those are our main issues. I feel very confident that Dale knows his way around the subdivision issues that need to be dealt with. Terry was in on a lot of that meeting, and so I feel like we're in really, really good hands. Every one of you has spoken to issues that are dear to my heart, and anything we can do to keep from having a property tax, I'm all there, people.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Okay, next up, Scott Lehue. You can grab the mic and start talking.
I'm in the way. I just wanted to congratulate everybody up there. Congratulations on the outcome of the election, and thank you for being willing to serve the citizens of the community. Just wanted to say that first and foremost. A lot of what I was going to say has already been said, so I'm just going to really bullet point it. You know, and these are very general items. We want to do the basic things that keep the town in good legal standing with the state. We want to do them well. meaningful ordinances that protect the town from development and is not an overburden on the residents. Establishing relationships with the counties and surrounding towns, I mean, that has a direct benefit probably on the roads, but it has a lot of other indirect benefits for other aspects of town business. So that can only be a positive thing. And taking the necessary steps to clarify the voter rolls in both counties is I think that's a must. I think we need to know, people need to know where they live, can they vote, can they not vote, and there's all sorts of things that impacts as well, going back to the survey and the map. So that's a huge deal, and everybody's already touched on that. One specific item about the emergency management, and y'all talked about it, is the reverse 911 system, sort of having a way to text people, whether it's about a meeting or a tornado or a flood or the water's out at 1565 at the bridges, don't go that way, things of that nature. I think that would be something that would, as you mentioned, Mayor Mike, everybody has a cell phone, so getting that out to people could only be helpful, I believe. So that's all I have to say. Thank y'all again. We're really glad to see you all up there. We really appreciate you being willing to serve. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, next up, Jonathan Blake.
Good evening. I look forward to seeing some of these things on the agendas coming up. Sorry. And presenting some counterpoints to what was said tonight. And the only other thing I have to tell you that Encore has installed the street light.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. I was going to put something out there. That was compliments of Jonathan's hard work. It's much better lit.
Yeah. A citizen suggested that, and I started that in January. It was kind of an involved process. You wouldn't think it would be, but it was.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Sure. Okay, next up, again, my new recent hero, Josh Sinkovich.
Hello. I just kind of wanted to talk about trying to get people into the town. Right now, we've been talking about the 311 feet away from, the center of the line, of the road. But our town is set up in such a way that it touches a lot of people. And those people could bring their property into the town of Poetry, and it makes the map look better. I think everyone wants a thicker map, want more people in the town, and they want bigger lot sizes to fill out the map. It really can be filled out if we get a lot of people in. So I think we need to incentivize people to bring their property into the town. And one of the best ways that you could do this, the town doesn't currently offer any services. There's no septic or sewer or anything that's provided by the town to incentivize. But one of the best ways I think that you could bring more people in is to maybe give an exclusion or something for future property tax. I think this has been talked about on and off over the years, but never really pursued, that you can make a document that says, you're exempt from future property taxes for 25 years or something, to maybe incentivize them to pull into the town of Poetry. And I think that maybe would fill out the town a little bit and make the map a little bit nicer. So that's pretty much. The only other thing, I guess, is I'd be cautious on implementing too many building codes. I don't think anyone in Poetry really wants to have a zoning someone out to inspect their shed, their barn. I don't think anyone wants to have someone on the property say, hey, you can't build this shed here or something like that. So yes, we need strict building to make sure that development is regulated, but not for the hassle of a rancher building a barn or a shed. So.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah. Josh, I shared, I think I shared that same comment one time, the incentives and the taxes. And I think it's worth revisiting, but if my memory serves me right, the attorney said couldn't do it. But on that mindset, we don't quit there. I would challenge you, and maybe we can form a committee. There's got to be some incentives, because we all want that filled in. The more this is filled in, the more protection we build around our bubble. Yeah. So So I echo your desire to incentivize others to come in, and yeah, let's think of some ideas. But I'll follow that track again, just ask the legal counsel, but I think they've already said we couldn't do that.
That's okay. We don't stop at can't. So, Scott, next up is Kenny Hibbs.
Previously, you talked about OMA.
Good. A little closer so we can hear you.
Previously, you talked about OMA. Can you tell the people when someone emails, say they email everybody and only one or two people can respond, can you tell them why?
Well, yes. Again, I think we may do a workshop or something where we do a little presentation on it, but I think we're all well intended when you just send something to all council and mayor. The problem is, once every one of us have seen it, again, we're obligated to OMA. We can't do a reply. So the best we could do is a couple of us grab it, and then that dedicated one or two will do the interaction with you. Again, I know it's painful sometimes because we're constantly reminded of our responsibility there, and as citizens, you're not expected to know it, but reply all is like the best way in the world to get in trouble with violating Open Meetings Act, right? So even amongst ourselves, we've changed a policy in the office recently that when the secretaries email us, they blind copy all of us, so you can't reply all, there's no way to. But just know that when your best bet is probably to guess who's going to be most responsive, and I'm always available as a center point, because I don't count. It's no more than 2 council members, but I can be on anything. I don't count because I don't get to vote. So you can have 2 of these folks and me, or one of these folks and me, or just one of them. But figure out 1 or 2 that you feel like would be the best to have the conversation with, and shoot your email to them. And, if it turns into an agenda item, then we'll all talk about it. But again, we're going to do it in front of you. But just know that mailing the entire council, I know sometimes you're just mad and you just want to tell every one of us, but it puts us in a conflict in our ability to respond. So, anything else, Kenny?
Dale, one for you. Is there a way between Poetry and the county when a property deed or any real property sale goes through that the city of Poetry could stop it?
A sale, you're getting into property rights. And no, it would be like saying, you have 100 acres and we decided we don't like cows, so you can't have cows. Yeah, you can't take someone's property rights away from them. That's protected by the Constitution and I think several of the Amendment 4, and so there's a limit, even zoning. There are a lot of times, and there's thousands of court cases where zoning can be so restrictive that people aren't allowed to sell their property or develop their property, use it to its best and highest and best use, and that's a whole concept. And you want to have a boring conversation, I can have all kinds of talk about highest and best use. But so there's a limit to what we can do. Zoning, we've all agreed to incorporate. We've all agreed that we're going to allow certain restrictions on our property for the betterment of the community. But at some point, we can restrict it so much that we've taken away those property rights, and we just can't do that. We will go broke fighting that one.
Okay, anything else, Kenny? Okay, and we're going to allow add-ons tonight because we've got a few minutes left. And Larry, you had a comment you wanted to make. Do you remember what it was? Okay. Well, hang on, get the mic because we have people online that'll watch the recording.
I'm concerned about the grandfather clause. How would that affect people that have been here for years and years, or their property was here before we purchased it? And then also, will that affect insurance rates? Because I don't know about you, but, you know, because I know fire hydrants around here, and we're with the distance that the fire department has to travel puts us at a very high rate of fire classifications. Do you know about that, Terry? As I'm saying, it's like, you know, we're at 10 level. If we had fire hydrants, I don't want a code to affect in a grandfathered way that makes us have to make changes that the insurance companies can see and hold us accountable for. Am I contradicting myself?
No.
But do you see where I'm going? Is if we have a zone, that's great for all new structures. But if a house is 25 years old, or 50 years old, or whatever it is, that had no codes other than what Farmers Electric required to hook you up, you know, are they going to come back in and make you correct everything? And if you don't, because the town has adopted new code standards, does that put us at another high risk because we haven't complied with new codes on grandfathered structures?
Well, one thing, it's kind of like that legal non-conforming use thing. One thing we may have to get to is issuing certificates of occupancy. If you're in established towns, once you finish the construction and you get all your final inspections and fire marshal inspections, then the city, everybody turns in their reports, and then the city issues you a certificate of occupancy. You go into a restaurant, a store, you'll see a little black frame on the wall, and that says CO. And what that would do, you're right, eventually Poetry will get big enough, we'll have to do that. But that is also a way that we can protect, again, someone who has an acre, it's a non-conforming use, let's say they don't meet the setback requirements, or let's say, or the type of construction. One of the solutions we may have to deal with is go out and issue COs to those uses. That's going to protect those people. They have every right to be grandfathered into Poetry as we do if we have 50 acres. And so what that would do is if that house would be significantly destroyed by whatever event, they would have the right to rebuild. And I think, personally, I think a town is a little bit of everybody. And we don't want to get so restrictive in things that we push certain economic classes out of town.
Yeah, but do you understand what I'm saying, though, is that's good for new compliance, but what about the grandfathered retro people that are already here?
That's what would happen. Exactly what might happen is we may have to just go around and slowly, that's one of the reasons why I want to identify all the properties that may have an issue. And obviously, then we would want to tackle those first. After that, then we would want to take everybody's house, you know, and we would have to set some standards. We'll have all the meetings for that. But you could say, you know, you have an operating kitchen, one functioning bathroom, electric, you know, sewer, you know, you got the basics, then the town could come in and issue you a CO on an existing home, or existing property. But that's something, you know, we could get down.
Here you go. That's okay.
So like, for example, let's just say that we adopted a code. And so let's just say that we adopted the minimum state code of 2018. The city then can go in and make an amendment to that code to alter it to make it still good for us and not bring us to that crazy standard. So, I mean, like for my city, that's what we do. Like right now we're on 18, we're jumping all the way to 24. But our building official is still going in, even though he's adopting that code, he's also going in and making city code amendments so that it helps protect us on a lower level so that it doesn't cost the city or residents those additional things that have to go in and be done. So like I said, if we did the state code and it says we gotta have this, then council can go in and say, okay, well, we're gonna make a city amendment to, you know, the IRC 2018, you know, whatever section, and this is the amendment that we're gonna put. Then they all vote on it, and then it's approved as a city code amendment. And that's the amendment that then we get to go by, even though we are under that state ICC code.
So Larry, I want to make sure that we understand what you're talking about. So I think we've covered the grandfather clause, but I think one of your concerns is the rising cost of insurance. Is that correct? Okay. So I'm not sure about this, but I'm going to take a stab. If the town adopts building codes, and I don't know what else we could adopt, but if we adopt building codes, would that help with our insurance premiums? So Doug says yes. So does that help answer your question? I just kind of, well, give me the mic back. Let's work this out.
Well, I understand, like I said, we've got an older home, and people are just running Romex point A to point B, and it's not really code compliant on today's standards. So if you adopt codes, and now all of a sudden we have to have a CO that comes out to approve homes, is that going to penalize us? Because the
No.
more of this that gets exposed, our insurance adjusters and underwriters are going to become aware of it. And it may cause us to be, because we're not compliant, to say we're in a 30-year-old house that's never been inspected by anyone other than the power company. Model? Bottom?
New town.
Find a standard?
Yeah, kind of, we've got to get everybody in, you know, include as many people as we can, get you in, and then kind of move forward from there.
Yeah, but let's have a contingency plan before we put it into law, you know?
I think something might ease your mind too. The property will be, so grandfathered, that term he keeps saying, legal non-conforming, that is grandfather. They don't use the word grandfather.
Okay.
Legal non-conforming is grandfather.
Legal
It's on the
non-conforming.
property, it's not on the house. Your insurance company will not know your house is substandard to what the city has passed.
Okay.
And you'll be fine in that house. Your fire question, everybody in the state of Texas, it's ISO ratings. Your top cities, McKinney's and others, are ISO 1. Those citizens get the best tax rate. But that margin from a 1 to a 5 is really minuscule. It sounds like a big difference, but it's really minuscule. Those people were paying less in premiums because of ISO 1, but they're paying more in taxes to be an ISO 1.
Yeah.
So it's a wash.
But I know the 4 years I've been here, I've had to go through 2 different insurance companies.
Yeah.
And I've got a good record as far as no claims other than like a hailstorm back in the previous city. So, but it's just that when they look at this fire situation, because we don't have a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet.
Yep.
The Union Valley Fire Department is within 0.6 of a mile shy, and that puts us in a higher rate. So it's like, here we are kind of in a city, but they're taxing us, or they're penalizing us as if we were out in Egypt.
Absolutely. And just to follow up on that, the emergency manager conversations that Doug and I have already had, those positive relationships, not that we've had any conversations of wanting a fire department here, but when those emergency managers are talking and they have ILA, interlocal agreements and stuff, and the commissioner's court, and they decide that there needs to be another fire department, those positive relationships are probably going to let them land it here because of the population growth that's in the surrounding areas. So,
Right.
not that it has an immediate impact on us, but those positive relationships will bring that to us too. That doesn't help with the insurance rates now, but in future it could.
No, and I mentioned this to Dale a week or so ago, that if you ever get to the point where we're going to be replacing roads such as Poetry Road, why can't we start adopting fire hydrants at each intersection? So at least, even if our street is 1,500 feet long, that ought to have some kind of effect on the ratings. Add some more hose.
That's touchy, and because of something Tara said the other night, Mike and myself and Mr. Lay, you're on the water board, so I don't want to talk about that. We could talk off to the side about that, okay?
Okay, I'll just throw it out, that's all.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm not trying to start problems.
No, I appreciate it.
Well, and on the water board, we're obligated to, whoever is on there is obligated to open meetings compliance as well, so. Let me kind of give you Mayor Mike's perspective on what Josh and Larry and a couple others sort of chimed in on. For whatever influence I have in the time that I'm on the council or mayor, I'm going to fight really hard against anything that causes people to start crawling around on our property looking at what we already have, right? Nobody's coming in my barn and challenging my wiring. I did the best I could, okay, but it's probably wouldn't get approved in Highland Park. And so for whatever influence I have, right? Remember, I don't get to vote, but I do get to communicate with everybody up here. We're going to do our absolute best. I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure that we don't do things that cause longtime residents, longtime structures, and other things to be penalized. I'm thinking when I talk about this, codes and other things, I'm thinking like developments that might show up in our ETJ or at the Lamar property. I mean, I don't think there's any reason we wouldn't want those houses to be built to good standards, right? We don't want a bunch of trashy homes because if they know they don't have a strict standard, we're going to draw junk, right? And we don't want to draw junk into our neighborhood. We want good homes that are, built well, that hopefully are expensive enough that, people will be good people and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, that's sort of my statement on it. Okay, we're doing good on time, but the air conditioners just went off. That's why it got quiet. So from this point on, it's going to get warm. But we are guests, so I didn't want to complain about that. Is there anybody else that didn't sign up that's just like burning with, I just got to get this out based on something I heard? You're welcome to raise your hand, and we'll get you a microphone for a few minutes. Okay, nobody's allowed to whine after you leave this meeting. We gave you a chance. We know who was here. If you start complaining on social media, we're going to get after you. Okay, I'm going to let the council sort of do any closing statements they have, and then I'll wrap us up at the end. Doug, you want to kick us off?
Well, once again, thank y'all for here. We've picked up a lot of information. We're hoping when you walk away from here that you're a little more at ease, if you will, of knowing what direction that we're going in. There's a lot of discussions that those are things, it's kind of like when we were kids when we lined up dominoes, started at one end and went to the other. Well, we can't start in the middle with the domino fall. We got to start at the beginning. So that's where we're at, is starting at things that we've talked about, codes and things like this. One thing we've all talked about, emergency management. The one thing that I've mentioned to people back in the day, because we were here too, but corporation is a good thing for the town of Poetry. When we're talking about insurance, I'll give you just the bottom basic. It's an insurance policy that we have, and we're under Kaufman County's emergency management. So that's where our insurance policy is. If we were not a community of such and incorporated as a town, each of us would have an individual home in the county. And when disasters come, folks out in the county are almost the last ones to get help, if you know what I'm talking about. So this is why we want to bring things together with our emergency management, all the things that we're talking about, codes and things like that. That does eventually will help as we go along. It's a lot of work. We'll get volunteers, Robin. But we're working toward that because everything that we can do as a community in a town does reflect something along the way, whether it be an insurance rating or structure of your house or things like that. So I know I'm looking forward to it. You've heard a lot of the comments from the council. We're excited. We're excited because we've already been, as you can tell, we've already been brainstorming a lot already. And once again, proud and honored to be here. Thank you.
Tonight's truly been a pleasure for me. I love hearing from the citizens. It's like a breath of fresh air. So I appreciate everybody that made a comment tonight. You gave us great ideas. We have traditions. We want to keep those traditions going. It's like you're an extension of us. And that's the way I want you to feel, and I think everybody up here would share that sentiment. But again, thank you for coming tonight, and I look forward to seeing more of you. Thanks.
Well, I just want to say, having been on the council since 2021, we knew it was going to be difficult to start a new town, and it was, it still is, but it's much easier, as Mike said. And at this point, you know, I have to say it's been very rewarding, but challenging. And I want to thank the people for the votes, and happy to be here and do what we can. And we've still got more challenges ahead. It's never easy.
Thanks, Tom. Sure.
Yep. Wonder why you guys tell me that. Again, something that Mike said earlier, we talk about a lot of things. My job is just to do the research. Understand, you know, I'm not making any decisions. I'm going to do the research, get all the facts together, bring it to the council, and then say, hey, you know, that sounds good, let's do an ordinance. And that's really kind of where we're going to be. So none of us are out here, you know, don't look at us as being the wild man out there just trying to change the world. Okay, we're here to serve you.
Go Dale.
I'm going to be the shortest. With all sincerity, thank you all for participating in our town.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, so to wrap up, I'm going to say one more time, and I'm going to give you, I'm in a lot of accountability groups, Christian accountability groups, and one of the things we do in those groups is we give one another permission, right, to speak truth and life back into us if we're doing something squirrely. So I'm going to give you in the community of poetry permission, this is from me, I'm not speaking for these folks, to hold me to this. I really mean it when I say I want this council to look forward. I want us to avoid language and words. I mean, I appreciate the applause and the celebration and all of that, but I don't want that to be what we're about, right? This town is important to all of us. As Tom just reiterated, it took a lot of work to get it up and going. Not all of us agreed that it even needed to exist, but here we are, and here we will continue to be. And I want us to focus on going forward, right? And I know there was a lot of fear-mongering, and I got even some comments when we were campaigning about, okay, I heard you're going to throw out P&Z and you're going to dissolve the town, and none of those could be further from the truth. Those are not things that I'm thinking. Those are not things that I've been discussing. We are where we are. I'm proud of the town. I'm proud of the citizens. I'm proud of you know, what I think we're going to become as we continue to mature. And it is kind of a maturation, right? It's not like, okay, we got a new mayor and council, everything's going to be different. Well, you know what? I have all the same challenges that Tara had. This council has all the same challenges the last, you know, council had. But we're a little bit smarter, right? We've traveled a little bit more road. We're a little bit smarter. And so I really do. So if you catch me in a council meeting or otherwise looking like I'm looking back, you have my permission to call me out on it, because I just don't want to do that. I don't think it's productive. I do think it's useful to study history, as I've said before, long enough to make sure that you've got your facts right, that you're not going back through a loop needlessly. But I don't think to dwell on history is a productive use of our time. So. Okay, a couple of thank yous I wanted to get out. First off, I wanted to thank Dr. Haran and the Poetry Community Christian School. Hold your applause if you would. We'll do it at the end here. For allowing us, they're not hosting us, but they're allowing us to use their facility. And I'm very grateful to that because, again, we had no idea if one of you were going to show up or 1,000. So I just didn't want it to be confining in a little building. So this allowed us to, and like Terry and others have said, I'm hugely excited that everybody is here. And by the way, I am intending to use this facility for the next few council regular meetings, right? So you can just kind of put that in your mind. The reason for that is, although Josh has done an outstanding job of getting me going, our audio stuff is not particularly portable, okay? So if we go back to the church or somewhere, we're going to be lugging equipment. Until I see a lot of you offering to volunteer to help with things like that, I ain't signing up for it. So we come here, we plug in, we're on the air, and we're ready to go. So we're going to use this for a little while so that we can start working on, you know, other things that are important to the town and not figuring out how we get speakers drug around. So additional thanks to Scott, Laura, and their daughter Zoe, right? I knew it had an OE in it. So thank you to the Lehus for taking on the responsibility of getting us the ability to come in here and helping to set up chairs and make all our beautiful signs and all of the other many things that they helped us with. Very, very appreciative to them. Thank you to Sandy Haran, Dr. Haran's husband, who came in days ago and helped me test out all the streaming and YouTube and all of that to make sure it would work. And David Emard, who's back in our sound booth, very much appreciate him helping us out with that. And again, thank you everyone for coming. And if you would, we're going to start in the community spirit. If you would help us to put up the chairs, we would greatly appreciate that. That would be your first volunteer opportunity. So please take advantage of it. Thanks to all.
Yes,
You gotta shake my
yes,
hand or
yeah.
You're one step ahead of me, Dad.
I'm going here. You pick them up. Mom probably has a box they go in.